Nechronica is a fascinating game. I've spoken about the Japanese fan-translated game on this channel before, but as a quick summary, you play as undead girls. The world is dead, you're going to go insane. You also have to fight with your chainsaw hands. The game is an incredibly thematic piece of RPG design, with one of the larger fan translation communities actually out there. The Notecromancer's Guide to Dolls was a look into Nechronica, dissecting its parts down into the core. It was also an idea in the back of my head after someone offered to pay me to rewrite the entire game into a cyborg game and being threatened for legal action by the fan translation community due to their perceived notion of the game's advocacy for child abuse. While it never materialized, the idea in my head stuck. Nechronica is a game you can't simply pitch to people. Not even counting the theme or the setting, the game has a unique approach to combat and is rigidly designed, something that is very common in Japanese TTRPG circles, notably Kamiya's work. So I decided to dissect it all, break it down its parts individually, and find what is needed to be found, and understand each detail behind them. The results were inconclusive. The first bit is the lack of non-combat options. Simply stating raw facts is that Nechronica has incredibly light, almost non-existent non-combat mechanics, which led to the birth of the standard aptitude system, which is a skill system tied to the parts, keeping as close as possible to the D10 system Nechronica has. Originally, the people I consulted on this said Nechronica was fine as is, but they also wanted to use GURPS as a shell for its non-combat side, which I felt broke the tight design of the game. I kept things as accurate as I could, with characters being more tied to their parts and internalizing said skills. Secondly was the combat option. Simply put, Nechronica's combat is an elegant, beautiful thing. However, Nechronica's combat, while simple, is complicated for people who have D&D-addled brains, so I was curious and I chopped it up. The advanced health system broke apart the part system to its extreme, because the standard health system is actually fairly generous, but also a bit loose due to its nature. You can have your torso removed, but your arms will remain, but the advanced health system tracks every part of the body. Grid combat makes things feel more familiar, but I forced myself to rewrite chunks of maneuvers to compensate for the new standard grid movement, outright changing some to fit it for the battle map style of play. The scavenge weapons and armor system, because fun fact, there's actually no way to beat an enemy to death with a rusty pipe in Nechronica. Finally, I played with the battle map a bit. It's a very elegant thing to design, but I was interested in why it was so elegant. The answer is out of necessity more than anything. The entire game can be played with just the battle map on the table and little else. No minis, no complex labyrinth, nothing. It's a feature of simplicity, which I made a bit more complex with the addition of Heaven or Hell and Tic-Tac Bones. Perhaps the most requested addition was the alternate character options. Simply put, Zomback combat lollies sometimes appeal to some, but to others they may turn people away, quite a few people in fact. So I made 4 special issue orders, which are Abominations, Robotic Entities, Italian Z, and finally non-human auxiliary troops. Each provide a different gameplay style and method and can be played separately or with a mixture of all the 5. Abominations are the strangest, though non-human auxiliary troops I feel are the weakest, simply due to the sheer volume of animals I had to account for. So at the very end of this endeavor, I said I would attempt to create a system for parts, the beating heart of Nechronica's entire structure, as the community's recommendation currently is either to refluff current parts or just not make custom parts, you abomination of God. The Viscera system I made kinda works. I compiled a massive list of every single translated part in Nechronica, detailing the effects, ranges, categories, and you want to know a real nasty secret? There is no consistency. No equation, no rhythm or reason. Ryo Kamiya quite literally just made them all custom built, each part slotting nicely into a nightmarish jigsaw puzzle of sadness. It proved to be a horrendous to even sort through. As while Nechronica is fairly elegant in execution, its guts are built from a single man's mind, translated into English over years by a community. Right now, it overprices, underprices, because that's what was available, and in other places, it makes it difficult to even slot in things simply due to the Sprungo Screw option as a tier 3 armament. But since you selected the Meat Conga line as a tier 2 mutation, the Grungo Congo as a tier 2 enhancement, does Sprungo Screw's job better. Interlocking all of its systems together, Nechronica makes a maze of options, which parts are exceptionally better because a single class has a single ability, which if you must take, because if you pick anything else, you're effectively not optimized. What are you doing? The Viscera system was built in vacuum, solely to produce in part independent of any variable outside outside of that vacuum, which makes it amusingly impossible to balance unless I rewrite the entirety of Nechronica from the ground up to use every single thing of the Viserys system, but that's nuts. Overall, the Notecromancer's Guide to Dolls is an experiment of chopping a game up, peeling away the skin, cutting the fingers off, extracting the blood, removing organs, and everything else to see how it actually ticks. I believe I succeeded at that, though I will still like to pick Ryo's brain for pricing of individual parts. My name is Notepad Anon. If you enjoyed the content, please leave like, comment, and subscribe. I need to retreat now. There are other things which need to be dissected.